Welcome back to the second half of our city, where I'm going to be joined by Reverend Joseph Adair, who's also the relocation officer for the city of Elizabeth. How are you, sir?
I'm doing well.
Good. And back by popular demand, Linda Flores Torbert. How are you?
Very good, thank you.
Welcome to you both. Now, I'm going to call you Joe Adair today.
That's fine. That's what my mother named me.
Tell us a few things about the Office of Relocation.
Relocation office is really a multi-task office. We, on paper, we deal with code enforcement relocations. If you live in an illegal basement or illegal attic apartment, or, pardon me, if you have situations like running water, heat, we'll get involved. We also deal with all the major fires in Elizabeth. Then we're a referral base. We have people who come in, we have a great number of people who walk in looking for help, and we need to be able to refer them if we can't help. We work closely with the health department, Director Krishna Garlick, and with the coalition, Linda's group.
Right. Now, your job is not your traditional 9 to 5. Technically, you're on call 24 hours a day.
24 hours a day, 7.5 days a week.
God forbid, it's 2 in the morning, there's a fire. What happens to that displaced person or persons?
Well, we put them in a hotel. I work closely with the American Red Cross. They get the call first normally because they have greater resources than I do. But I normally go down to the fire and coordinate. My church is a licensed Red Cross site. In lieu of the hotels being full, we'll set up cots and things and make a shelter there until we can transition them into a hotel. Now,
your work doesn't just apply to fires. Unfortunately, we had an explosion back in November.
November 11th, yes, on Magnolia Avenue.
What role did your office play in that?
We played a major role in that. We housed the individuals. I even eulogized one of the deceased people there. And we helped them with clothes, food, clothing, and shelter. And several families were permanently relocated. And we got furniture for them. I even got a truck, moved furniture. And,
wow.
We do that. It's not on paper, but we have to do what we need to do.
And Linda, how does your agency work with the relocation officer?
We kind of pick up where they leave off. So some of the families, once they were sheltered through relocation, or the Red Cross, came to us afterward because of the eligibility criteria. So they come to us, and then we can continue their being sheltered and then help them get into permanent housing. So very similar work, but kind of one follows the other. So we kind of work very closely.
Now, relocation doesn't necessarily pertain to just fire victims or whatever. You also deal with homeless victims.
Yes, I do a lot with homeless victims.
Especially in this cold weather. Tell us about Code Blue and what's a Code Blue alert?
Linda can answer that better than me.
Okay, well, Code Blue started in 2000, well, actually we started it in 2003, but what it means is kind of like you call stat in a hospital. When the temperature goes below a certain threshold, which is 25 degrees, which is pretty cold, or 32 if it's precipitating, then now since 2007, the county then calls a Code Blue saying that all the shelters can extend their number of beds. And the county Division of Social Services then puts people into those shelters, really no questions asked, because the idea is not having someone die of exposure.
Good.
I was just going to say my church is a Code Blue site. Whenever the Code Blues call, we mobilize, and we have up to 40 cots where we can place people if necessary. I always get phone calls because a lot of folk go to the police station. Right. And I get calls from the police station, and I encourage them to call 211 because they can get some information on where to go and help through 211. Yeah.
On any given night, temperature drops to 25 below. A citizen's walking down the street and they identify someone who's homeless. What's the next step they should do? Should they try to be a hero and take the person themselves? How do they handle that?
You're asking me?
Either one.
Okay, well.
Normally, what I would suggest they do is take them to the police station. Police know the resources. A lot of times they will transport them, not all the time, but a lot of times when they have the time, they'll transport them to the Y in Plainfield if there's no availability at the Salvation Army here on East Grand Street.
And what is a warming center?
A warming center is really it's really a place that folks go to stay warm. So there's no beds. There's usually coffee or hot beverages, some soup, so that a place that people can stay warm. And in the summer, we have cooling centers so that people have places when they have no air conditioning to go and just cool off. So it's just like a safe space to be in so that they don't get exposed to the extreme temperatures.
I know sometimes after hours I get called to Trinitas, the emergency room. They allow people to stay there as long as they're, ruly. And during the day, I know the library sometimes
We have a lot of homeless
works,
people.
and you have different sites
Right.
that they can go and be warm.
Now, unfortunately, there's a reason that these people are in that condition. Is there anything beyond cots and warmth at this thing? Does any type of screening, anything take place at these centers?
Well, when we house homeless people, we get their inventory, we get their name, their last known address, and their social security number. And we have a database at City Hall. We put them in and we make sure that if they come in again, we can refer them to some help. A lot of times you'll see that, I don't want to say most, but a lot of the clients who are homeless are mentally ill. And we always try to refer them to a mentally ill facility or try to get them a job. It's another thing we try to do for them.
And I guess the advantage of having a church like that, you have some clothing or something on hand to
We have a
provide-
food pantry, we have a clothing pantry. All they need to do is call the church at 908-353-0024. Leave a message and someone will get back to them and making arrangements for them to come get food or a coat, socks, shoes, boots. We have all of that.
Now, a few weeks ago, Linda, we had a major blizzard. How does the coalition prepare for something like that?
The first thing we do is work with the city and finding out what the designated site this year was. Second Macedonia Church was the safe haven. And then we go on the streets, we have an outreach worker, and we let people know this is where you need to go. St. Joseph's had their soup kitchen open during the blizzard, and we let people know that they needed to go, and to the Second Macedonia, but most importantly, try to encourage them to come out from the cold. Some of the people that we work with are very mentally ill, and so what happens is they don't perceive it as a danger like you and I understand it, and so they feel like they would rather be by themselves wherever they go for the night than be and kind of like weather the elements as opposed to coming in and being safe. So we have to really work with them to encourage them to go and get help.
And what happens if a person is resistant and doesn't want help? What do you do in that situation?
The most important thing is try to develop a relationship with folks so that they trust you, because I think that's the key part of it. But in New Jersey, you have what's known as a right of self-determination.
Right.
And so we cannot force anyone to go in a shelter. They have a right to make a decision, even if you and I feel that that's not a good decision. And so we can't force anyone, but we can work really hard to make that the best option that they can pick. So we work very closely. It's really
29
that
inches of snow,
relationship.
somebody can say, no, thank you, I'd rather stay out here.
And we have
And
people
they
do
do
that.
it. They do it.
They do.
Yeah, we go on the task force and it's 10 degrees or 5 degrees, and they would rather lay up under a bridge than go to safety.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've experienced that.
At the shelters, who supplies the food and the cots?
Well, at the shelter, the city of Elizabeth is very gracious in giving us a voucher through the health department to buy food and those type. We don't do the sandwich thing, we do the hot meal thing. The county of Union provides the cots and blankets, and Red Cross provides blankets also, and some non-perishable goods.
And throughout the city, do we have more than just one warming center?
Well, St. Joseph's is a warming center, and they're open 6 days a week so that people can go and get warm. So that's a key thing. And also there's Operation Warm Heart, which the coalition runs, which is an emergency winter shelter. That's not only a warming center, but it's an overnight shelter, a low demand shelter, meaning that they can come in and we're not demanding of them a whole lot, more of it, get them in from the elements and start to work with them.
Now, I know from time to time we band together and we ride around all night and we search out, seek out these people. We have the food from everything. Is that one night Code Blue, or is it Code Blue any night?
Any night that they deem when the circumstances are right.
Right.
What is it? 32 degrees with precipitation and 25 or below. On a regular night. We have a group of churches and different facilities that they go around to during the night, and they have to check out in the morning and try to find another Code Blue site that night.
Right. They're sent by the Division of Social Services
Right.
here in Elizabeth to the site. So as long as it's a Code Blue night, they can stay there.
And if someone wanted to donate items, how can they donate, and what are some of the items that are really, really needed?
Hygiene items, toothpaste, deodorant, socks are very important. Those type of things, those type of things are really coats. If they have, if you don't want it, is my philosophy. Don't give it. A nice coat, sweaters. A lot of these people have very thin windbreakers on in this weather. And those are basically what I see. They need gloves,
Hats, scarves.
those type of things.
So
And where would these items go if someone wanted to donate?
they go right to the homeless.
I mean, but what agency do you take them to? You take
Oh,
them
the
to?
Elizabeth Coalition to House the Homeless.
Which is
accepts
located
that.
at?
118 Division Street in Elizabeth.
And Second Macedonia Baptist Church of Elizabeth, 1251 Fairmount Avenue, Elizabeth.
And St. Joe's, what role do they play?
Well, they're a partner agency with the Elizabeth Coalition to House the Homeless. So they do food, they have soup kitchen, they have food distribution, they do some medical social work, they have nurses come in, a job program, a job readiness program. So they kind of do the ancillary things to the housing needs that the coalition addresses.
Now, I know the norm for someone thinking of homeless thinks of an individual. Did either one of you ever recall a case where you saw an entire family homeless?
Many
yes,
many
many
times.
times.
Working families.
Wow.
68% of the people we see are not eligible for cash assistance from welfare. It's a huge issue.
That's another issue, right?
Yeah, we could spend a whole show on that
Yeah.
one.
And is there a normal place to find people? I mean, if someone's in a car, how do you know that person's homeless? I mean, they could just be sitting there, or how does?
Normally, people are good with, word of mouth. Hey, Rev, I saw a family over on Catherine Street living in a car. They have children, those type of things. And what we normally do, we just go over and try to talk to them and get them out of that situation.
Right.
Find out first and foremost why they are in that situation, and try to do the best we can to help them.
Get them safe. You had mentioned about the homeless count. That's happening tonight
Right.
in Elizabeth, all through all the United States. So that's.
And expand on what happens on that night.
That means HUD mandates an annual count of all the homeless. And so tonight, everyone...
As you say tonight, we're taping prior to, so this is going to air
tonight
later. So
is Tuesday.
don't give the date, but just go ahead.
And so tonight, Tuesday, they're going to go out and they're going to count all the folks that are on the streets that they
Right.
can find, plus anybody in a shelter or being sheltered in a hotel. And then that goes to HUD, and that is part of the formula of funding that comes back to the city and the county. So it's really a key thing to count. Tomorrow, the coalition has a Homeless Connect service fair, and we'll see about 150 people come through. We have about 25 vendors coming in. We have health services, nurses, cancer checks, eye checks, haircuts,
Right.
so that people who are homeless or near homeless can come in and find out where they can get help. So that's a big thing.
And that's what I was referring to. Each year we go out and do it for the entire
Yes.
night. And it's funny because, and shouldn't say funny, but it's weird because you walk up on someone, they admit that they're homeless, and you say, come with us. No, I want to stay here. And it's freezing out, and you're trying to tell this person, and you have a police officer with you, so you're a safe individual, but they still don't want to come. What can you say or do? How do you help that person?
Well, my experience with that is that either they've had a very bad experience with the shelter, or they're mentally ill.
Which is what one person said before, yeah.
And again, we try to refer them to the folk who can help them with that.
Right.
If they're from Elizabeth, 9 times out of 10, I know them because I've been in Elizabeth over 50 years, or their family, and just start conversating with them, trying to get them to, as Linda said earlier, to trust me and that I'm not trying to hurt them, but I'm trying to help them. And it works a lot, you know. But then you have those hard cases where they're not going to budge.
Now, before we wrap, any closing remarks, Linda? Something you want to add, or?
No, but you know, we're very grateful for what the city did for the blizzard this year, and
pleasure.
it really is. They're good partners to have. You know, I think that the city does a lot to help the homeless. There's always more that can be done, but we need to be recognize what is done, and I think that that's a good thing.
And the phone number to contact you, Linda?
We're at 908-355-2060, extension 301.
Okay. And Reverend Day, we want to thank you for all you do.
You're very welcome.
And what's the number at the church in case someone wants to make a donation?
Number at the church is 908-353-0024, and at the relocation office, it's 908-820-4215.
Okay. Thank you both for joining us on this segment, and we wish you the best in your endeavors.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for joining us on this segment of Our City. We want you all to have a safe, wonderful, and great week. Thank you.